Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Reaganomics. Berto is your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We're going to have a great show for you today. Today, what are we going to talk about? Well, before we even talk about anything, what I want to bring to you first of all is Rand Paul telling folks about Donald Trump and pretty much tacitly disagreeing with him. And then we're going to get into the show. We're going to get into Bernie Sanders. We're going to get into what's going on behind the scene that could really hurt progressives if we don't get on the ball. So what I want you to do is stick with me for the entire program if you're able to. And of course, there are podcasts to the program and much more. But I need you to stay with us as long as you can. And if you can't stay for the whole time, please go ahead and you know what to do. But here's the deal. Rand Paul really did a number yesterday on Meet the Press. Check this out. Well, Rand Paul kind of called out the president today. Well, sort of, kind of. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
You believe President Trump's instincts comport with your instincts when it comes to national security and foreign policy. But his advisors are in a different place. Does that bother you, or is that healthy?
I'll give you an example. You know, I'm on the Foreign Relations Committee, and all of his nominees come before me. And I even warned some of them in private. I'm going to ask you, do you agree with President Trump that the Iraq war was a mistake? Most of them don't agree with him. He keeps appointing people to represent him that think the Iraq war was just great. They'd love Dick Cheney's position, and they still don't admit that it was a mistake. So that's why he keeps getting policy that isn't his policy. But I do think his instincts are pure. He's been saying it since 20, 30 years. He's been saying for a long time that the wars have drained our treasury and that he's not in favor of these wars. But then they convince him if we leave, we'll look weak. I actually think this is a time of strength right now. Soleimani's dead. The leader of a lot of the mayhem is dead. This would be the time to come home. The Iraqi government, the democratically elected government, wants us to come home. We should come home.
I was just going to say, you think the president should take him up on this offer? You want us out? Let's do it.
Absolutely. If they can't fight for their country, why are we always the patsies sending our kids there?
Well, I can understand what Rand Paul is saying, but I think Rand Paul forgets he forgets two important points. One, there is the president, and then there's the presidency. The president can't want anything, but unless he's willing to fight and bring the support of the grassroots, it doesn't really matter. The gravity of the presidency, the gravity of the military-industrial complex, the healthcare industrial complex, and all these stakeholders that have been given power by politicians who have been bought cannot function with what they themselves feel they should be doing unless you have that grassroots support. But here is the kicker. Here's the kicker. Don't tell me what you think. Show me what you're going to do. And what Donald Trump has shown is he takes the path of least resistance to attain any particular goal that he wants, bar none. He cares about nothing else but Donald Trump. So Rand Paul, I understand what he's attempting to say. He's trying to say, oh, the president is pure in his belief, but don't tell me he's pure in his belief when he's appointing those same warmongering appointments that are likely to lead us right into war. So yeah, good criticism, Senor Rand Paul, but I think you're calling it all right. Well. So, I mean, it may not be exactly what we want. Welcome aboard to Warren trying to spare Bernie, and Kathleen Maureen Morgan from Situate, Massachusetts. Welcome aboard to the show. Folks, I'm going to start right off with Bernie is surging. And you know how you know Bernie is surging? You know Bernie is surging when the narrative changes. You know Bernie is surging when suddenly, in order to maintain their credibility, the news media decides, oh my God, we are going to have to cover the news the way it really is happening, because at this point in time, we are unable to change the locomotive that is moving, the progressive locomotive that is moving. We are unable to change. We're trying everything in the background. We're unable to change it. So they're starting to realize something, and I want you guys to understand what that is. Now, look, I am not naive. There are a lot of headwinds that Bernie Sanders is going to have to go through. He's going to have to go through tons of headwinds if he is going to make it. And the same applies to Elizabeth Warren. There is a lot of headwinds from the base, not the base, but from the establishment that they are working for the plutocracy, the corporatocracy. They're funders. Actually, they're the same funders that fund the Republican Party. So there's going to be a hell of a lot of resistance, just like there was resistance even against Obama. Now, Obama, for many reasons, and I wrote about that a few days ago, he did the best he could, but at many times he coalesced to the corporatocracy, and hell, now that he's left, he's actually kind of liked the money of the corporatocracy. But that being said, it is going to be very difficult for this to continue, but it is interesting that these guys finally had to come where they're coming. So I want you to check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side. Here we go. While watching the Meet the Press panel today, I almost flipped. I could not believe what I was hearing. Bernie Sanders was actually getting positive notice. Bernie Sanders was actually being considered as a legitimate candidate who could win the whole thing, more so than I've ever heard on a Meet the Press panel. I want you to take a look at this, and we'll take it on the other side.
I'm going to put up these two polls in Iowa and New Hampshire here of the presidential race. Top four in Iowa. It's a bunched race. Look at that. The difference between first and fourth is 5 points. Margin of error stuff. Sanders, Warren, Buttigieg, Biden. Let's put up a new Hampshire poll that came out this week. Literally almost the same percentage numbers, closely, just a slightly different order, but margin of error in both places. Two of those four candidates are sitting U.S. senators. At this point, it looks like we're going to have a Senate trial during Iowa and New Hampshire. Now what?
And if you're in the margin of error and you're looking at what might make the difference in that small thing, it might be that you had longer times to sit in the living rooms of Iowans, which is what most people think it takes to win Iowa. When I talk to Bernie Sanders' campaign, they make this point that he has fiercely loyal support. And I'm someone who's covered 2016 and Bernie Sanders and then President Trump. I think what they have in common, at least what their supporters have in common, that there's really a visceral connection to their candidate there. Right. So when I look at who could possibly be the person who is possibly favored here, Bernie Sanders, I think, could be somebody who could sit out as part of this and still retain his support in a way that maybe Warren wouldn't.
I think also the foreign policy issues, which haven't at all risen to the top of the debate, are going to give, I think, Bernie some advantages. Having campaigned against the Iraq War and now taking on Biden, let's see how these coming debates go, because I think that Bernie versus Biden on the war and peace issue is going to be a subject Iowa has always cared about. That
and they can be kind of dovish. Andrea, think about this stat that I like to remind people. John Kerry, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama are the last three Democratic nominees. Two voted for the Iraq War, one didn't. Which one won the presidency and which two lost?
That was what I was saying exactly about Bernie. Barack Obama was the senator from Illinois, the Illinois state senator who came out against the Iraq War, and that is what really propelled him in Iowa, and Iowa propelled him through the next primaries to come.
We're talking about Chuck Todd and Andrea Mitchell making the case that Obama and Clinton, Clinton and Kerry, the ones who voted for the war, they didn't make it, but Obama did. And they are equating Bernie with Obama. Am I dreaming that this is from the mainstream media actually giving a progressive candidate the possibility? I mean, we're not saying it's going to happen. We're not saying that it's all clear and done, because there's a lot of work the grassroots have to do. The thing about it is, let me tell you what my biggest concerns have always been. My biggest concerns have always been that the mainstream media, that the plutocracy, that the newspapers, all run by the corporatocracy, are out there telling all of you out there, we can't get a progressive elected because this is a center-right country. Here's the deal. This is a center-right country because people are so petrified to call themselves liberal or progressive that they go for that thing called moderate. So if there are 26% of Americans who are bold enough to say, I am progressive, I like values that make things better, I like values that make sure women are treated equally, that people of color are treated equally, that I think most Americans are good people. I honestly think that. And that is because once I get into talking to people, I mean, look, people say things, all kind of crazy things. They call you names behind your back. All of that is true. I'm no fool. But basically, instinctively, people want to be nice. Even if you go, I've approached KKK members before. I've approached right wingers that have said racist things before. And you know, you sit down and you're talking to them and they want to be nice. And it's not that they don't. I mean, it is this peer pressure, animal instinct that keeps your defense system together. It's a complicated thing. But you get that other person one-on-one and you sit down talking and they start taking a liking, and we have to understand how it works, folks. We have to understand how it works. So what I'm trying to tell you is this. My biggest fear is that all these externalities come in here and convince Americans that this is not possible. We have to settle. We have to settle because Americans are really center right. They are not. Most of the people calling themselves moderate, if you ask them policy by policy by policy, the policies that they want correspond to what liberals are looking for. The social policies that they want, all these things. Now, when Biden and all these guys, Biden or Klobuchar comes out and say, you want to ask for free stuff, people recoil. And why do they recoil? They recoil because nobody wants to feel like that welfare person or wanting free stuff, which is not the case. When we're talking about Medicare for all, we're not talking about free stuff. We're talking about all of us paying for it. When we're talking about free tuition, we're not talking about it being free. We're talking about it paying forward. In other words, we are going to educate people. Those folks that are educated are going to get better paying jobs than they would had they not been educated. They will pay more taxes and they will pay it forward. Okay? That's what we're talking. None of this stuff is free. What this is society. What happens is the corporatocracy wants you to work your bones off. If you notice, Halle Velci had a piece on MSNBC today that said this. The median income of Americans are hourly wage is $10 and a few cents an hour. That means half of America lives on about $19,000 a year. I want you guys to understand what I am saying there. The people that are getting free labor, the people that are getting free stuff, are the corporatocracy. When they underpay you, they are getting free stuff. When they underpay you and some of you have to get welfare, or some of you have to get a second job, or some of you have to get all these things because you are not paid commensurate with your worth, it is not you who's getting free stuff when you ask for welfare. It is not you who's getting free stuff when you want Medicare for all. It is not you who's getting free stuff when you want a tuition paid for college, because you know who benefits from all of that? The corporatocracy. Let's make before I get deeper into the subject, I want to give you an example here, folks. This is important. Check this out. It used to be in Texas and many other states, you went to school pretty darn inexpensively. Why? Because taxes were commensurate with the educational system in such a manner that everybody who wanted to go to college could go to college. Well, all these states in their Reaganomics trickle-down BS, they started to cut all these taxes for schools and everything else. Well, then, when those corporations paid less taxes to put you through school and you had to pick that tuition up at a much higher rate, you were subsidizing the corporation. Because the corporation need an educated workforce so that those shareholders who own the corporations can make all those profits. Right? So those shareholders sitting down at their pool drinking their tea, they are making a lot of profits. Right? But they don't want to pay for what is giving them that profit. In other words, you are going to school, and when you go to school, you get educated, you pay for it, you go work for them, they pay you a menial salary, and their excess labor, what they don't pay you, they pocket into themselves, and they keep that. And instead of paying more taxes on that to educate the next generation that's going to come to work for them and then make them money And then again, and the cycle continues in a more fair manner, they take everything. So what the results of Reaganomics, the results of not having a progressive economic system, what occurs immediately thereafter is what we're seeing in reality. Income disparity, wealth disparity, where 500 people have half the wealth of the world. Think about that. That is the results of us not taking back out of what, remember, when you work for them, your excess labor belongs to them. So you may work and make $1,000. You agree to only make $100 per day. That $900 goes into their pockets, but it's you who made it. We as Americans, hi Lee Grant, hi Mike Cizak. We as Americans, we have to understand how the system works. By the way, folks, if you're just joining us, please share these programs. What I want to play for you now, real quickly, is El Señor Nate Silver. Nate Silver pretty much said yesterday that Bernie Sanders was in the driver's seat. If the polls are right and he pulls out of Iowa on top, Biden drops to 20% possibility of being the nominee. And I want to play this for you. Take a listen to it, and then we'll take it on the other side. But this is important. Folks, stay with me. By the way, if you're just joining us, please do remember to share our programs. We have to make people start thinking differently than what the mainstream media is telling them, than what the corporatocracy is telling them. Because what's happening here, people, is the following. They brainwash people into thinking they are worthless. They brainwash people thinking that Medicare for all is some favor for poor people. They make you believe that the Green New Deal is some favor for people. No, all these things are repayment for the free labor you have given to corporations and and education as well, making sure they pay for education. That is repayment for all the free labor you have given. It is important that you understand your worth. I wrote a piece a few years ago. I still reshare it every so often, called Know Your Worth. We are all worth it. This economy is not one-sided. It is currently operated in a one-sided manner because those of us who produce give all our excesses to the few rich people who own the corporations. But anyway, check out what Nate Silver had to say, and then we'll move on from there. 538 Nate Silver is out, and they've arranged their systems now to really evaluate where the Democratic primary is. And you know what he's found out? He's found out that Joe Biden is not the favorite. Not only is he not the favorite, but given the way things are going right now, the race just may be Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren. And I know it's not going to be that quite evident with what he said, but you have to look at who is likely to look at Iowa and then see how Joe Biden's percentages fall and what it really means. Check this out.
Our model literally simulates the entire process from Iowa in February to the Virgin Islands in June. And the question is, can some candidate hit the magic number of 1,990 delegates? Our forecast has Joe Biden as the most likely person to win the majority of delegates. But let's break that down. Say Biden wins Iowa, for example. If he does, then he's off to the races. Our model says Biden has about an 80% chance at a delegate majority if he wins Iowa. But Biden's polling in Iowa isn't that great. He's basically in a four-way tie there, which means there are three other people who could win. So what happens if Biden loses Iowa? Well, then his chances fall all the way to 20%, our model says. He could still fight back, maybe in more diverse states like Nevada and South Carolina, but any Democrat who loses Iowa is facing a bit of an uphill battle. So sorting through all these scenarios, our model gives Biden about a 40% chance of winning the majority of delegates. So do I buy that Biden is a favorite? Well, not quite. To me, means a favorite means over 50%, and Biden's winning less than half the time in our model. So if he doesn't win, then who else might? Our model says Bernie Sanders has the next best chance with around a 22% chance of a majority. He has plenty of strength in Iowa and New Hampshire, and if he wins 2 or 3 early states, he'd be in the driver's seat for the nomination.
first, let me be clear about something. There are these people putting out data out there saying it is impossible for Bernie Sanders to beat Donald Trump because they're going to throw the socialist trope on him. They're going to throw all these different things on the socialist, the Jewish, all that kind of stuff on him. Let me be clear. That would only be true if our systems were static. If all Americans who want policies that support themselves, that support ensuring that they have good health care and much more, if they decide, oh, just because this guy is labeled or labeled himself this way, we are not going to support the policies that he wants to give us. If Americans are hurting as they are today and they allow a plutocracy to mislead them into voting against their own interest, then we would have deserved that. But anyhow, he also said right now there's a statistical tie in Iowa. There's no statistical tie. I don't know of any poll recently that gives any assurances that Joe Biden can possibly win Iowa. So assuming that he doesn't win Iowa, what Nate Silver just said is that at that point, his probability of winning a majority is 20%. So in effect, in 3 weeks, things are going to change. In 3 weeks, once he does not win Iowa, we will see if the mainstream media heed this notion, this warning coming from Nate and others that, well, this just isn't the guy. But folks, I want to go a little bit deeper here. No centrist will do. No presidential candidate that is trying to appease a mythical center will win this election, because that presents no difference between the pain of Donald Trump and the pain of just a bit more humane sounding rhetoric when the underlying economics is not changed. So therefore, given that most Americans know they have health issues or the potential of having health issues, given that most Americans know that healthcare in this country kills, given that most Americans know that healthcare in this country can bankrupt not only them, but their kids and generations to come. Anybody who believes that they should compromise those realities and elect someone who claims to be moderate, someone who claims to be able to appease some people who have the same problem that everyone has, is dreaming if they believe America will give up on Trump for Trump light. Actually, it wouldn't be Trump light, but for something else. We want to win. This is the time to vote for a transformational president. At this point in time, mediocrity doesn't count. At this point in time, anyone who doesn't support policies that really support the middle class, starting with Medicare for all, has no right to win. Okay, I think most of you that are listening with me would agree with that we can't, we are in difficult times right now. As you guys know, I've told many of you, I lost my mother-in-law, and we had first-hand look at what it is like dealing with even the current state of Medicare, the current state of our healthcare system. I mean, it is hard to believe that this is the United States of America. The constant degradation of our system baffles me. It completely baffles me, the total degradation of the system. And what we have to do, folks, is we have to stick together. We have to understand what we're talking about, and we have to make sure that not only do we take care of business in this election, but that we bring other people along with us. That is so important for us to do. We have got to bring everybody along, and once we bring folks along, you know what we're talking about. Anyhow, before I get to the next segment, I'm pretty much wanted to talk about how progressives have a very good chance of winning. Right now, Bernie Sanders is in the leading way. And by the way, today a poll said that Biden was 6 points ahead of Bernie in Iowa. Of course, the last poll had Bernie ahead by 5 points from Biden. So I have a hunch it was the best poll says that Sanders is ahead by 5 points. The other poll that's not from people living there said something else. But anyhow, before we get any further, I want to remind all of you that this is a progressive program that needs your support. What I'd like to ask you, I'm going to put real quickly inside of the field here the different ways in which you can support our program. You can support our program definitely by becoming a subscriber, and subscriptions to our programs very, very, very affordable, cheap, and you would be getting the message out. So what I did is I put in a field there, patreon.com/politics done right. patreon.com/politics done right is a way to support us by becoming a member. You can also support our fund for our equipment fund, remote equipment, etc. We go on in the field. Last year, we went to Washington, D.C., Oregon, and some other places with Politics Done Right. You can check those out as well. So there it is. You can go to our GoFundMe page, which I put there, gofundme.com/independent-media-upgrade. And, of course, you can go via our PayPal. And our PayPal, I've just placed that in the feed as well. And lastly, you can go to our store. All of these are methods of supporting Politics Done Right. We do need your support to stay viable. As you can see on the screen right now, that is one of our t-shirts, but we have t-shirts and we have cups and we have books and we have all the works that you can find to help support the program, because without you, we won't be able to tell this message, to provide this message to everyone who needs to hear it. Right now, people are relegated to listening to what they hear on mainstream media. And for those of you who are Yang supporters, we also have a special Yang t-shirt. You remember Yang said, "Hey, wait a minute. You know, I'm still here. I bet you didn't believe I was going to be still here." Well, there you go. There is a Yang t-shirt you can get at our store as well. Or you can get the one from El Señor Trump, who is saying, "Nancy Pelosi, por favor, do not, Nancy Pelosi, please do not impeach me." So that's what we have there on another t-shirt from Politics Done Right as well. So check it out. Go to our store and check out our t-shirts. It looks like I got a call here. So before I continue, I will go ahead and take that call. So let's go ahead and open the lines there. Caller, you are hot. What is your name?
Hi, this is Rose Williams.
Rosalind, how you doing?
Hello?
Yes, how you doing?
Rose Williams.
Rose
Good.
Williams. Hey, Rose, how you doing?
Good. I just want to comment about polls.
Yes.
You may remember there was a lot of dissatisfaction with polls back in 2016 that showed Hillary polling so high.
Right.
And it turns out that when you looked at the numbers, when you analyzed the people who were polled, most of them were like over 50, over 45. These polls were junk. They were absolute junk. And it was reflected in the fact that, people did not really, they weren't excited by her. They didn't come out and vote. And I want to point out that at the beginning of this election cycle, I don't know if it's still going on, but at the beginning, there were so many polls that came out and said, Joe Biden is the clear winner. Joe Biden is way ahead. And then if you were able to get the data that showed who they had polled, there are, and I have this, I can actually, send you some of this data if you want to look at it. My son looked at a bunch of it, and they had polls where there was no one represented below the age of 45.
There you
and
go.
Of course, and so they kind of they cooked the books from the beginning because people want to back a winner. And if they see, he's clearly so far ahead that, we're going to back him, when in fact it's a lot of BS.
Rose, that is one of the reasons I came back. That's one of the reasons I came back and said we need to be out here with the independent media because, you can't expect a media that's owned by the corporations to do anything other than try to get the best candidates that would support the policies they want, which is what's occurring.
Exactly. And it's a lie. It's just plain and simple. It's all a lie. And I think we really need to start demanding that any poll that comes out shows the data, shows
they call those the crosstabs. The crosstabs, yes. They should show the crosstabs on all those. On all of those, I'm with you 100%, Rose. Anything else you want to add to that, Rose?
Well, I just want to say once again, I'm a Bernie supporter. I just turned 65 the end of last year. And so all those people who say that older voters do not support Bernie, well, my 92-year-old father supports Bernie. So,
Man, I love you, Rose. Love you, Rose. Love you,
Okay.
Rose. You are our Rose,
Love you.
Rose.
Oh, thanks. Well, thanks so much for what you're doing.
Thank you so
My whole
kindly,
family
Rose.
supports you.
And for those,
Yeah, take care.
Rose is a great supporter of Politics Done Right, folks. You guys, you can support Politics Done Right as well. We need your support. Those of you that are on YouTube, you can always do a cash out. What do they call it? They call it a super chat. And the super chat, once you give me a super chat of, well, I think the smallest amount is $2 or $1 or something like that, or to any amount that you want. Once you give a super chat, I give you a shout out right there in your YouTube thing. But anyhow, we have Angela Fudd who says, "Sorry, Cory Booker has." Wait, no, that's somebody else. Angela says, "The Democratic Party is a joke. They laugh at ADOS because we don't know history. Elizabeth Warren family stole Indian lands. Bernie also has a tainted family lineage, as well as Warren. Everybody has Angela. Most people in America have a tainted lineage. In fact, I don't think there is a pure lineage in the United States of America, as I think you would agree with me. Now, that said, as far as reparations are concerned, check out what I wrote on my page today if you get a chance. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to see if I can pull that up, and I am going to read it because I think, Miss Flood, you're going to love to hear what I had to say. Let me go ahead and see if I can find that right now as we speak. But anyhow, while I'm looking for that, let me go ahead and read some other stuff from other folks. Let me get up to the top. Mike Cisak says, "If you want all these government programs, then get together all such socialists and agree to pay for the programs, and those that pay get access to them. Problem solved." The problem is this, Mr. Cisak. The problem is that you are a socialist, Mr. Cisak, because you happen to be driving on my roads. The roads that, there was a time before I decided to give up on my company to go full-time into political activism, which is hard. And not only hard, it's hard to live doing this. But let me just tell you, I paid so much taxes, not only local, but state and federal. So you are a socialist, Mr. Cisak, because you are riding on my roads. I am sure, unless if I recall, you're a farmer. I am sure I paid more for the road that you are riding on right now than you did. So, now you're paying more. So now I'm the one that's thanking you, of course. You know what I mean? But anyhow, what I'm really saying is let's not fall for the Powell Manifesto crap. That's what it is. Society means that we all band together for a society and we do things democratically. Sometimes you lose, sometimes you win. You may want certain things, I may want other things, but you like what you like to be paid for by us all. And what you don't like, you don't want to pay for. That's not how a society works, no matter what. Now, capitalism says we leave you to the dogs, but that's another subject. Hey, Egberto and Chatters. How you doing, Lee Grant, my brother? Great to see you here. Okay, I wonder how Bernie, if president, would respond to an attack on a U.S. embassy. Bernie would respond like any other president. He would respond in utter horror, and he would find the person who did it and take care of business in a legal way that doesn't kill a whole lot of people. I want to read what Miss Angela, what's her name? Angela is made me want to read something to you all that I wrote this morning because I was feeling it this morning as I was watching the TV. As I was watching how everybody was talking about Qasem Soleimani getting killed, and it was like matter of fact, nobody had any feelings. Nobody felt like they had a soul. And there was something that touched me there. It was like, my God, and I have a new thing here with the screen. I'm going to put that on the screen when I find it. I kept on saying to myself, Why isn't anybody saying something else? And let me put on the screen what I wrote. Because folks, if you can't see what I am going to tell you here, you concern me. But here's what I said. I said the following. I'm going to read it to you. And please take it in the spirit in which I wrote it. Because I wrote it with a good heart and I wrote it with a good intent. I said the following. Does anyone find it strange the ease with which we discuss assassinating a leader in another nation? Iran and the US have been in a virtual war for some time, right? Many on both sides were killed, right? Let me posit this. When George H.W. Bush invaded my country of birth, Panama, to arrest one leader, Manuel Antonio Noriega, illegally that is, according to international organizations, 4,000 plus Panamanians were killed. Those who know the area know it was more like 10,000 Panamanians. How is that not a war crime? We were called collateral damage. Suppose other countries use the same criteria against American leaders. Does anyone see the hypocrisy to not speak of the inhumanity? Funny. Funny thing is that Manuel Antonio Noriega was a capitalist. America had a need for drugs, and he facilitated the economics. Again, we do this all over the world. Local laws be circumvented. Remember, we sold ALAR. ALAR in a lot of countries. It couldn't even be sold in our country, but we threw it away. We gave it to other countries and sold it. As Americans, we should consider looking at what we do through the eyes of others. We fool ourselves so much. We act as if we are much more humane than others, but we were a society that legally enslaved, whipped, murdered, and dehumanizes other human beings. And at the same time, we want them to not talk about reparations because it would upset the offsprings of the oppressors whose wealth is derivative of said theft in some form. We see police officers treat black and brown bodies as target practice. We elect a president that hates women and people of color. We pollute all over the world and then complain about the cost of Medicare for all and the Green New Deal. The Powell Manifesto has instructed the construction of institutions that have warped our morality. Instead of atonement for our sins, we create a nationalistic facade based on fiction and condoned by a corporate evangelical movement. I would love to hear comments on that because I watched the TV. And as I'm watching the TV, I'm watching how all these people on TV are talking about this guy who got killed and I'm in the works. And I'm sitting down there and I'm like, don't these guys realize we're talking about human beings here? Don't they see that? Anyhow, let me go ahead and go back to some of the questions before I get into the other part. Okay, so let's see. I was talking about Angela Flood before. Angela, how are you doing, my friend? Angela says, ADAS knows the family lineage that ties directly to the institution of supreme supremacy, which all front-runners candidates of the DNC share. I mean, I think I think that would go for quite a very long time, right, Angela? Let's see. What else is there? Angela said, that's why if it is possible, she would choose Roosevelt as a running mate. Look at the atrocities that were committed. Indian Removal Act. I mean, look, that's why I talk about in the piece that I just read about atoning, and that's why I talk about how we do things. Anyhow, going back to other people here, Lawrence Sims says, will the media cover the low and conservational interests of Bernie's? Let's see. Will the media cover the low and conservational interests of Bernie? I don't know what that is. but I'll read it later. But I don't know what that is, Lee, or rather Lawrence. You can tell me later. Okay. Lee Grant says healthcare in this country has also saved many lives. Healthcare in every country has saved lives. The thing about it is, in no other country do you have to go bankrupt. In no other country do you have to go through what we go through to get health care. I mean, you have to, if you get sick, you have to figure out where to go. You have to figure out if this one is going to take that plan or that. You know, they lie to you. They tell you, oh, you have choices. You don't have choices. They give you choices. Please remember that, people. We are so gullible too many times. An insurance company does not give, a health insurance company does not give you choices. It tells you who they will suggest that you see. No choices. Medicare for All, of course, allows you to go to whoever the hell would take you, period. That's it. No, you have a choice of a doctor, you go to that doctor if he has an opening, period. People, we have to stop allowing the corporatocracy to frame an argument to deceive us, which is what we do a lot of times. Dimitri OG from YouTube. MSM trying to smear Bernie. They've always tried to smear Bernie. All right, let's see. Dimitri OG, healthcare over Space Force. Yeah, I mean, you know what's so funny, Dimitri? We don't have to make that choice. We really do not have to make that choice. We can actually have them both. There is the money to do both if we didn't have money hoarders. In other words, if we didn't have hoarders of capital, we could do everything that we need to get done. But our economic system depends on having a few hoard capital. That's what it's all about. Okay, Dimitri said Trump is attacking Bernie. Okay, Kathy Pascale says, sorry, Cory Booker has dropped out. I think Bernie and or Warren could make a great ticket. I do not want to be stuck with voting for Biden just because he can beat Trump. Bernie Sanders is not afraid to speak up for DT. Bernie tells it real and history speaks for itself. Thank you for all you do. Thank you so kindly, Kathy, for being a part of our family. And remember, okay, and continuing now, Dimitri OG says, Biden, Pete, Warren are blue Trumps. Biden, Pete, and Warren. I think it's unfair to put Warren in that group, my brother Dimitri. I think it's unfair to put Warren. Look, what folks don't understand is this, right? You cannot solve who your you cannot determine who your parent is. You can't determine the color of your skin. You can't determine any of that. The only thing you can determine is going forward if you're going to be a positive for society. Okay? And a positive for society may mean a whole lot of things. For a white person who is sitting on land that was stolen, it may mean finding an equitable way to go ahead and share. There are a lot of different things one can do. Again, it goes as follows. You cannot determine your parentage. You cannot determine your lineage, but you can make amends for what you have gotten based on taking from others illegally or in this case, unfairly. All right, let's see. Mike Cesek said, no, you don't pay for most of the roads in my state, and the federal interstate are mostly paid for by us in the state. But in that, I don't get a choice either. Road department isn't socialism either. Please explain to me what you you have a poor understanding of things like the fire division, the police department, the military, and all of that. Those are all things that we socially get together, pool our money, and have them do things for us. In the case of the military, most of us pay for the military, but they are there mostly to support the plutocracy, the shipping lanes and all that kind of stuff. Make sure you don't have the pirates going to take over the ship. Most of that, they should be paying more for that because it supports them more than it does us. But that's another story. Dimitri OG. Okay, let me see. Dimitri OG. Trump attacking Bernie is a positive. Bernie supporters more steadfast than Trump supporters. That's true, though. And have more teeth. You're right. Lee Grant. What's Bernie's tainted lineage? I would imagine that Angela can come back and explain that to you. Dimitri OG, black and brown lives aren't valued in this administration. No, they're not valued. Okay, let me correct something that you just said, sir. You said black and brown lives are not valued in this administration. I would posit that black and brown lives have less value in just about every American administration, period. That's just how it is. I mean, it's not something that you sit down and you cry about. You just look at the reality. You look at when you hear somebody say, "Don't bring these subjects up. Don't bring these subjects that most affect black and brown people because it may offend the working class and they may vote Republican." That tells you who is more cherished. They don't say, "Let's go out there and bring all those black and brown people that have stayed out of the voting population because they felt that the system never worked for them." They don't say that. They just say, "Let's not upset the white working class." You see how if we were to decide that we really wanted to have everybody have equal value, equal access to success, those won't ever be questions at all. Because what we would always do is we would go out there and get our voters. And they're out there. There are more of us. There are more people that believe in these policies. And once we stop lying to the white working class, the white working class would be our brothers and sisters too, because they have more in common with us than they do with Trump and the corporate cabal. And that's the reason I do what I do. I am not here to hate on anybody. In fact, next week you're going to see me with one of our guests is going to be a right-wing Trump supporting Republican who I'm going to try to have a good conversation with, because I want to let her know she's more like us than she is like the plutocracy. It's that simple. Okay, Rose Williams says, "When my husband and I worked as engineers, we paid tons of taxes." So you know what it's like. I'm an engineer too, my friend. "And we were proud to be able to give our support. I believe that patriotism means that we should want to pay it forward." Of course. That's what this country in the long run has always supported. Any forward-moving country. People get more intelligent. They build more things. Bill Gates didn't build Windows. Bill Gates modified the system that created Windows. We all built on the knowledge and intellect of others. And until we understand that we are all a family that must live together, because none of us can exist and do it independently. None of us. None of us can live and exist and do it independently. So, Rose, you're so right. Dimitri OG, "I sold my home and moved into an apartment to cover my health care." You see, that's a shame, right? All these years, Dimitri, you built up your wealth. You built up your wealth. You built up your wealth. And who owns the healthcare companies? The corporatocracy, the plutocracy, and all that wealth that you built up. As you get older, they look at you and they say, "All right, I am taking it all back," because you will die without wealth. There's this stuff called the reverse mortgage. I hate it. I hope I never have to use it. But there's this stuff called the reverse mortgage. Folks, if you are on YouTube, remember you can always give us super chats to ensure that we can stay viable. Super chats, a good thing. That little $ right next to it. Recently, YouTube has just allowed me to start doing it. I guess you have to reach a certain threshold before they allow you to do that. So you can always give Politics Done Right a super chat to say, "Yes, I like what you're doing," and "Yes, let's keep moving forward." But here's the deal, folks. Here's the deal. It is sad that is where we're going. That reverse mortgage, I played a piece on reverse mortgage a couple of last week sometime where I showed you how they advertise reverse mortgage to teach people how to be irresponsible. Take out a reverse mortgage, go on an expensive vacation, fly first class, do all of that. It's your money locked up in your home. Take the money out of your home. And the way I think is, my God, the way we build generations is we try to leave a little something, not all of it, because I do believe in the estate tax, but we have a certain amount that we can keep to move on to help that other generation move a little bit further than you were. But not even that is being allowed right now, because they're either fooling you into giving up everything or They're forcing you to give up everything because of health care. All right, Trump is not racist at all. He has nothing against anyone except illegal immigrants. If they came to the country legally, he would have no problem. The thing Bernie wants will kill the United States. Supreme Leader Donald J. Trump, thank you for coming to Politics Done Right. I hope you continue to stay with us, Supreme Leader Donald J. Trump. I would love to continue to talk to you because I don't I want to see one of these days. In fact, I would love for you to call in 646-716-5812 because we can actually discuss what you just said. We can discuss what you just said item for item, and I guarantee that if you decided to be an objective thinker, you would say, "Oh, why was I fooled for so long? Why was I fooled for so long?" Dimitri OG, the struggle is real, and my mother was a black Cuban, and I've paid into the system and employed hundreds of people, and the government is abandoning me when I need it most. I got you. Let me get to the caller. All right, 781, come on in. Come on in. 781, how are you doing?
Hi, Egberto. It's Kathleen.
Kathleen, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine. Talk to me, Kathleen.
Oh, great show covering such a wide variety of topics.
Thank you.
But when you were talking about the reverse mortgage thing, and then you kind of were talking about health care, I have a friend who lives in Minnesota, and he's in his early 50s. Mm-hmm. His mom is in her 80s, mm-hmm. and she's very ill, and she's on Medicare. She's still living in her home by herself,
right,
but shouldn't be. She needs at-home care. Medicare won't cover it mm-hmm. because she has assets.
Right.
They want her to spend all her assets, the money she's saved, to pass on to her kids. They want her to deplete that before they'll give her
Medicaid,
the home health care.
Right.
Right. So she qualifies for Medicaid and home health care.
Right. Right.
And so right now my friend is working full time and taking care of his mom, and his blood pressure, the last time I talked to him, he said it was 260 over, I forget what the bottom number was.
Oh my God, that's stroke blood pressure.
Yes. And he's terrified. He's on medication to control it, but it obviously isn't working. He's about to kill himself trying to take care of his mom.
He can't. You can't stay with that blood. I had 240 over 140 when the ambulance came to the radio station to check me out, and from then I had to go ahead and get stringent. But that is terrible. Your friend is in trouble.
I know.
He needs you now.
Really
he needs your help, or he needs your support, or he needs something. But he's in trouble.
Yes. Well, we talk all the time, but I mean, he needs solutions, is what he needs, and his mom is refusing to dip into his inheritance to pay for home health care. So he's in a bit of he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, it is sad because it's called a rundown or rate down or something like that. And what it is they will start giving you the care, but they will start billing your estate, right? And all of that eventually mm-hmm. goes all back to them. A lot of people think Medicare is free money, or rather Medicaid is free money. Medicaid, they'll give you the Medicaid right away as long as you sign all that stuff over to them, and then they'll run it down.
Oh, the state told him she would not get Medicaid with the level of assets she has.
Right. What they told him, when we thought that my mother-in-law was going to have to do that, it would have been that they could have done this stuff called a rundown. In other words, Medicaid is run by the states, even though it's funded by the federal government. And it turns out that in Texas, there's something called a rundown or something, from what I understand. And what it is that they will, they'll set up all the program, everything, and they'll run down all your assets for you. It's amazing. People just don't get it. It's taking your wealth back. And I tell you what's so funny about it. Well, it's not funny. It's sad. Is that they try to maximize the services that they provide to your person that is sick. That is. So that it's not even done on the cheap. It's done at the most expensive manner possible to deplete you as fast as possible. It's a shame.
Right, right, right. Yeah. So
Anything
I
else you
just
want to
wanted
add,
to
my
let you
friend?
know. No, that was it.
Look, thank you so kindly, folks. You hear these stories. These are real stories that affect the average American citizen. And you know what? It affects you when you least expect it. Thank you so kindly for listening, and thank you so kindly for being a part of Politics Done Right, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Egberto. Have a good night.
You too. Okay, folks, we are coming close to the end. If anybody wants to do a quick call, let me go through this stuff real quick again. All right, the struggle is real about your mother. I'm sorry about your mother, Dimitri. Chris Evans Michael said, why do you feel Biden has a huge support amongst the black community when his policies affected us the most? Black people, let me tell you something. Black people are still fooled into believing, and remember, it's older black people now, that's because Obama picked Biden that somehow Biden is acceptable. Even though Biden, well, I'm not going to say this on air, but the truth of the matter is Obama picked Biden because Biden could have won him the racist vote. Does that tell you something? All right. Bill Gates paid a pitiful amount for Windows. Yes, 50,000 of the developer of CPM, and it turned into Windows. Absolutely. By other engineers who were trained by other people who we all pay taxes to train them. Yes, that's how Bill Gates made his money, off of the taxpayer, off of paying a small amount for CPM, and off of never never selling MS-DOS to IBM, but licensing it to IBM. Oh, it was a great capitalistic move. It's a perfect move if you're believing in capitalism. He's a genius when it comes to that. You don't have to have a hell of a lot of technological knowledge. You just have to know how to work the system. Your life or property. I tell you right, Dimitri. Rose Williams says, both he and Steve Jobs went to the Xerox Palo Alto Research Center and appropriated their tech because they were foolish and didn't have it nailed down. And both of them made all the profit. Exactly right. You nailed it, Rose Williams. Folks, again, please do remember, this is a show that needs your support. Please go ahead and go to store.politicsdoneright.com. A quick call here. Let me bring in that quick call. I'm going to go over 2 minutes because I got another caller. So let's go ahead and take the other caller. Come on in, 210. Come on in.
Hello.
Hello, you're in. You're on.
Hi. This is Tina, and I was just calling to listen to your program, which is great. I just want to let everyone know that here in Texas, in San Antonio, and I'm not going to name the doctor, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And at that time when I was diagnosed, I had no insurance at all, none whatsoever. We have programs here in San Antonio that if people have a very low income, they would qualify. But if you're so-called middle income, I guess they call it that way, you don't qualify because there's a rate that they cut off. So they wouldn't help. So I went finally to a doctor that I was suggested that he could probably help me, which I went to. I did have the surgery done, and then when I went to see the oncologist, he had told me that most women that come into his office only come and get their breasts cut off, and then they walk out of the office. Which to me, I felt that was very unfortunate because all these women, if he says that, that's what he's quoting, that means that these women didn't get their chemo or their radiation.
Oh,
and I just felt so... I felt, you don't know how I felt.
Oh, my God. So you're telling me they
Yes.
found cancer in the
Yes,
breast,
this isn't...
and he just says, I'm going to
Yes,
cut it off, and okay, the cancer is gone now, you're on your own.
Most women that come into the clinic, they get their breast cut off, and then they leave. I was just stunned because this all has to do with money. I was fighting for my life at that time. Of course, later on, quickly, we did find another oncologist that did accept me. But again, it came down to a financial matter. We had to sign papers over to it was just like a loan as a car payment. and sign the papers up that we would be responsible to pay the debt, as we keep going. It was something that we could afford at the time. We're still paying on it, mind you.
Oh my God.
We currently, yes, the radiation alone costs $18,000.
What?
$18,000.
And you're paying for that out of pocket.
Out of pocket.
Oh my
But
God.
I just want all the viewers out there, everybody that's listening, you have to vote for Bernie Sanders. You've got to. It only makes sense because if this keeps up this way, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to go into heavy debt and will go bankrupt, mind you.
Wow.
And I just wanted to call in so everybody could know what a cancer patient goes through. Because it's a high cost to pay.
Ma'am, your testimony is very important. What is your name?
My name is Tina.
Tina, thank you so kindly for calling into Politics Done Right. I am so happy that you're healthy now, but I'm so sorry for the debt that you had to incur personally to get healthy. Something that is just a random occurrence. You have a wonderful day, Tina.
Thank you. I just want to shout out also for everybody in Texas. Wake up. Throw away your cowboy hats and wake up.
Thank you so kindly.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, that touches. That hurts. This guy, he gives service. At least he gives service, but he cuts off a woman's breast and then just say, go home. That is our healthcare system, people. If you believe that that is all America has to offer, if you believe that that is the best we can do, then who the hell are we? Who the hell are we? If we have women in these conditions, who the hell are we? Medicare for all. Medicare for all. It's more than about money. Medicare for all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this, baby. We are what? Out.